Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of the Waste World Podcast. I am back. Well, I guess you're hearing this when I am back, but it is being recorded over holiday break, so not quite back. But here I am, Gage Edwards, hosting the Waste World Podcast with you on this Tuesday morning. I think going forward, these new episodes will be coming out on Tuesdays. That gives me a little more time to edit things when they come in. It might just be easier for me. So anticipate the podcast being a Tuesday morning thing now. Bright and early in the morning. Usually try to get these published around 7 a.m. so people can get their podcast on the way to work, wherever you may be. If you're sitting in traffic and listening to me, thanks. And if you're doing other stuff while you're driving, stop it. Stop texting. Listen to podcasts and drive. Don't text. Pull over and do whatever you got to do in a safe manner. So hopefully you'll enjoy this session from Waste Expo 2025, live from Las Vegas. Well, the session was live. It's not live anymore. We are listening to the educational session titled Safety Within Your Walls and Beyond, Shop, Fleets Equipment, and On the Street. You, any haulers out there listening to the podcast, this one's for you. You know, safety isn't something we take lightly in the waste and recycling industry. And we talk about it constantly because it's important. Just can't stay alive, stay safe, don't get hurt on the job. And we want to make sure that, you know, critical areas in our industry get the attention they deserve. So this session takes a deeper look at those overlooked risks, risks in general, shop safety, fleet maintenance, driver behavior, and those on the street realities. The panel that you'll be listening to today brings together voices from across the industry to share practical strategies, real-world experiences, and lessons learned on how to build safer operations without sacrificing productivity. Very insightful. So what you're about to hear is a candid, wide-ranging conversation focused on prevention, accountability, and building a culture of safety that extends far beyond facility walls. And if you enjoy this episode, make sure you follow the Waste World Podcast on all podcast services, Spotify, Apple iTunes, Apple Podcasts is what it's called now, on YouTube, other podcasting services, wherever you find your content, your podcasts, we are available. So make sure you follow us there. Leave us some comments. Send us a nice message. How about a good review? 5 stars would be great. I don't know how the rating system works on all of the podcasting services, but if you could do that, that'd be fantastic. And I hope you enjoy this session.
My phone's showing 10 o'clock a.m. sharp. Welcome, everybody, to Waste Expo. Glad to have you here. And this particular session is an exciting discussion on safety within your walls and beyond. And so we've got 3 panelists today. I'll introduce myself. I'm Bob Dick with SCS Engineers. I'm based in Richmond, Virginia. I am not a safety professional, but I've been in the waste industry for about 35 years, and I'll be doing the moderating here to get your ability to receive information and commentary from the 3 panelists who are safety professionals. Before I introduce the panelists, I want to give you a layout for today. Couple things to tell you about Waste Expo. Ask you to download the Waste Expo app if you haven't already. I ask you to use Slido for the audience. The evaluation form at the end. So there'll be a QR code that it's up here at the end. If you can scan the QR code, we really appreciate your valuable feedback and evaluation on this, which is clearly a very popular session here on safety within the shop, fleet, and on the street. And so your feedback will be very valuable. And also, some of you are using the yellow reusable cups. Appreciate that. Just make sure when you dispose of them, they go in the yellow bin. And with that, I'll introduce our panelists. First, I'll start with Megan Rains. certified safety professional. Megan is Vice President of Health and Safety for ReWorld. She joined ReWorld and entered into the waste industry about 18 months ago. She's got a chemical and biomedical engineering background, but she's been in safety her whole career. Said she started out as an intern and got into the safety side of the house. She's based out of northern Georgia, and her comments that we'll hear from her today regarding her role at ReWorld will focus primarily on safety committees. And then next we have Steve Saltzgiver. Steve's Director of Fleet Services with RTA. Steve's had some former roles in the industry with responsibilities for waste collection and waste transfer fleet operations, but Steve's clearly a fleet-based professional and expert. His comments today are going to provide insights into shop safety and fleet vehicle issues for us. And then we'll go to Glenn Neary. Glenn is the Vice President of Driver Safety and Engagement for All-Star Incentive Marketing. Glenn's been with All-Star for 8 years. He's based out of Massachusetts, and his comments are primarily on engagement, both of drivers and other affiliated personnel. The way we're going to do today's session is I'll give Megan, Steve, and Glenn an opportunity to kind of make some scripted, wow, this is a really hot mic, I apologize. I can't get hardly any farther from it. We'll get some prepared commentary as they give each of them in sequential order. We'll kind of present some information, use a PowerPoint slide, and then we'll open it up when Glenn's done with his. We'll should have enough time for Q&A, and I expect everybody studied and did their homework before coming today, so hopefully we'll have some good engagement with questions from the audience.
Good morning. First of all, before I start, let me say I'm so excited to see so many people in the room to learn about safety. That's amazing. It's something I'm very passionate about. Hopefully all of you are as well. And I'm excited to have the opportunity today to talk to you about safety. And I hope that there's some things that you can learn from this session that you can take back to your own organizations. I'm also excited to be here on behalf of ReWorld. ReWorld is a leading sustainable solutions company, but I'm very proud to say that we're also a leader in safety performance in the waste industry as well. So I'm hoping that there's some things that I cover today that you may be able to take back and apply within your organizations. So let me see if I can figure out this. Okay, it's already on my slide. Today I'm going to be talking about safety committees and how we have leveraged safety committees as the primary driver for improvement in safety performance and culture in our facilities. It's part of our strategic roadmap where we've planned out the next 3 years of our health and safety strategy, and it's really a key part of how we are driving improvements in safety. So before I jump in, show of hands, how many of you have safety committees in your facilities already? Okay, great. So I see quite a few hands, maybe half of the room. That's fantastic to hear. But one of the things, and we've had safety committees in ReWorld for a very long time as well, but safety committees, actually what we've found is if you don't fully empower them, then you're not necessarily utilizing them to their fullest potential. And that's what I want to talk about today. Safety committees is not a new concept. Many of you obviously already have safety committees, but I think we have a really unique approach to empowering and engaging with our safety committees that I wanted to share with you today. So you may think, why are we talking about safety committees? And there's so many reasons why. First of all, we can utilize our safety committees to truly improve employee engagement if we empower them in the right way. And that's what we've really been trying to do, because most of you are aware there's been tons of studies out there that have shown that there's a very direct link between employee engagement and safety culture and safety performance. So safety committees is a great driver for improvements in that space. Also, if you think about it, so me at a corporate level, I engage very closely with our facilities, but we have over 100 facilities between the US and Canada. I don't know day to day every single health and safety issue at all of our facilities. There's no way anybody can know that. But our safety committees, in conjunction with our safety teams on site, are very uniquely positioned to be able to understand the challenges on site. They hear directly from the employees, they understand day to day what the issues are, and they can correct those issues and take action accordingly. Additionally, they can also help to hold local leadership teams accountable in a unique way that a lot of times our hourly workforce doesn't have the opportunity to do. And last but not least, we have found that leveraging our safety committees and truly empowering them has allowed us to connect one facility to another in meaningful ways. And I'll talk more about that later, but really encouraging that collaboration between our facilities and not just at the local level. Before I move to the next slide, though, so about half of you raised your hand and said that you have safety committees. How many of you feel like you're fully leveraging their potential today? I see no hands. Okay, so it seems like a great opportunity. So when we first started this journey in Reworld about a year and a half ago to empower our safety committees, we discovered that a lot of our facilities didn't even have a safety committee. Even though it was corporate policy that all of our facilities should be represented by a safety committee, we had a number of acquisitions and leadership changes and things, and long story short, a lot of our facilities didn't even have one to begin with. And some of the ones who did have a committee were not really that effective, to be honest. So now I'm very happy to say that every single Reworld facility is represented by an employee-led safety committee, including even our field services teams, and even our headquarters has its own safety committee. So it's been a long journey, and you'll see some of the improvements here shortly. But this example on the screen here, this is from our York facility, recently had an OSHA VPP assessment, and OSHA came out and was talking about the great things that they had seen and the excellence they witnessed with our safety committee at York, just to give an example. So I want to spend a couple minutes on this slide. I know there's a lot of words, but I'll talk through it. These are really the actions that we have taken to improve and empower our safety committees. And this is where we're really getting the traction. So there's really 4 categories of what we've done. And first of it is engaging with the workforce. All of our safety committees are led by an hourly employee, not a management employee. And that has really been key for us because they're part of the workforce. They really understand the challenges and can connect with the other workers. And they're also typically a very trusted individual that was volunteered by the workforce to lead the committee. So they are tasked to connect with the employees on site, understand their issues, and bring those issues up to represent them in the committees. Also, we require our committees every month, at least at a minimum, to do a walkthrough of the facility. And it's somewhat like an audit, but they're also looking for behaviors and also engaging with the workforce during that walkthrough to see what challenges they have, what they can do to help. Next is inclusion. This was one of the big areas that we focused on because we realized in talking with our committees early on that a lot of them were just working in silos. They never connected with one another. They were doing their own thing locally, and a lot of them were doing great things, but that was pretty much the extent of their work. Now what we've tried to do is really pull them into existing business processes. Now they're not just working in a silo by themselves at a local level, but we're pulling them in. And one example is we have a safety call every week with all of our site leadership, as well as our senior leadership and our executive leadership team, where we talk everything safety related. There's usually at least a couple hundred people on that call. And traditionally it was just management on that call. Now we've actually invited our hourly safety committee chairs so they can hear directly from the management team on what's happening with safety. They can also hear best practices from other sites as well. And that's been a great opportunity for them to engage and not only just listen, but they actually participate. I encourage them. A lot of times in an average week, we hear from safety committees directly on that call. So we'll have hourly folks presenting what they have accomplished with their safety committees at the sites. And it gets visibility to all of the other sites in our entire organization. So that's been really a great tool for us. And in addition to that, we've pulled them into all sorts of other business processes as well. When we do an RCA from an incident, we have somebody from the safety committee be part of the RCA investigation group. When we do an audit, they're typically part of that as well, along with other business processes like our management safety meetings that happen every month at each site. Now the safety committee is represented there. And even with some of the community outreach that we do, like hauler safety days, for example, those are often led by our safety committees. So it's a great opportunity to get them involved in more and more parts of the business. And going along with that is visibility, because as I said before, they were operating just at a local level. They never had an opportunity to see what any of the other committees were doing, but we've changed all of that. And that's been really game-changing for us. We now have, at a regional level, every month, a meeting with the region president and the region leadership team with every single safety committee chair in the region. And they talk about their challenges, what help they need, and even best practices and things that they want to share with the other safety committees. So they all know each other now. And that's been a great tool in our arsenal to improve and empower our safety committees. And in addition to that, then they see that visible leadership support. The executive leadership team members care about them. They want to know what they're doing. They want to know how they can help. In addition to that, we also have our senior leaders, when they visit sites, they make a point to actually sit in on the safety committee meetings, not to judge or to give advice, but actually just to understand and thank them for volunteering and being a part of the safety committee, and also just to see what roadblocks they have, if there's anything that they can do to help facilitate them to be able to move forward. And then something else unique that we've done is actually make safety committees a leading indicator. You know, we talk in safety a lot about leading indicators, and this has been actually the leading indicator that has correlated the closest for us with our lagging performance, interestingly enough. So we measure our effectiveness of our safety committees using surveys, and we score it out. And we do that regularly and use that as a leading indicator. And then every month during the monthly business reviews that our CEO does with each of the regions, we start always all the meetings with safety. But part of that report out that's required every month from our region leadership teams is, how are your safety committees doing? What's going well? What's not going so well? So we have visibility all the way up to our CEO on our safety committees. And then last but not least is just the support. So as I said, because now our safety committee chairs in particular have a very strong connection and regular meetings with the senior leadership team, they get that support. So if they're not feeling like they get what they need at a local level, maybe the facility manager's pushing back on something, they can call a COO, they can call a region president, they can call me directly and say, hey, I need help. I need you to work with the leadership team here to help us through something, and we work through that. So they have a phone a friend, and that's been very effective and has really helped them understand that they are empowered, they can make change, and they have that direct connection to help when they need it. And then also the collaboration piece of it, as I said, that's been extremely important. And actually, what we've seen now is when we've encouraged that collaboration and had them meet with one another, they see that they're not the only ones that have the same challenges. And so we've actually had, I'll give you an example, we have several sites in the Long Island area. Our Long Island sites, actually on their own, the hourly safety committee chairs now have partnered with one another, and they have a local safety committee group that meets on a regular basis. And they go to visit each other's sites, and they talk about the same challenges and how they can help one another. So it's happening organically now as well, that this is improving our empowerment. So what are we getting out of this? What improvements have we seen? I underestimated on here. I was a little conservative. Honestly, I think we've seen thousands of improvements, specific improvements at a local level because of our safety committees. And I can go through slews of examples, but I put a few up on the screen. And one of the things I'm most proud of here is when we first started this journey, our safety committees were primarily focused on the low level of hierarchy of controls. They were talking about updating procedures, they were talking about training, these types of more administrative controls, which are important, but we've really worked to educate our committees on the hierarchy of controls, and now we're starting to see a lot more actions moving up that hierarchy We're seeing engineering fixes, and even in some cases, complete elimination of a hazard. There's one example on the slide here from our Fox Valley location as an example, where they came up with a very simple and inexpensive solution to clean out frac discharge tanks. They used to have to enter them all the time to clean them. It's a permit-required confined space. Now they don't have to enter at all. They've completely eliminated that hazard. And by the way, it's actually much quicker and easier for them to do the task. So just some examples there, but we've seen huge improvements across the board. So what are the keys to our success? I've mentioned some of this, but I'll reinforce it here. Visible leadership support is so key to this. And not just saying our safety committees are important, but actually stepping up, visiting the committees, talking to them, removing roadblocks, saying, how can I help? That has been extremely beneficial to our success. Also, just that collaboration and enabling our committees to connect with one another across the entire network has really helped move that empowerment forward as well. And recognizing them. In the weekly safety calls, there's a lot of recognition, and our senior leadership team will chime in and say, hey, that's a great thing that you did. You really made a difference. We appreciate you. And that's a snowball effect, because now they're going to continue to have more and more improvements. And then last but not least, we needed to set a minimum standard, because when we first started, as I said, it was all over the board. We had this wide spectrum of some sites with no safety committees and some sites with well-performing safety committees, and everywhere in between. Now we're trying to consolidate that and move those lower-performing sites up to a higher standard. And so we have set some very specific expectations at a minimum. We don't want to stifle creativity, but that has been very helpful, and we measure that and are working to close all of those gaps at our sites so that we have a minimum standard everywhere. So are we perfect? Of course not. It's all about continuous improvement, and it's been a journey for us, and it's a journey that we will continue going forward. But it's one that we've been very excited about, and we've really been reaping the rewards of this improvement. And I hope that maybe this gives each of you some ideas on how you may be able to improve and leverage your safety committees. And I'll wrap up my portion by saying, just in summary, if you take one thing away from this, don't underestimate the power of your safety committees. It shouldn't be just a check-the-box exercise to say that you had a meeting. You need to really empower them and give them the tools to have them be effective. And they can go a long way and do amazing things for you. And then last but not least, just if you're interested in learning more about ReWorld, we have a big booth at the expo. We're, as I said, a leading sustainable solutions organization, and we are always looking to waste better and reimagine how we can work with waste and really turn refuse into a resource. So we're excited to tell you more. And with that, I will turn it over to Steve Saltzgiver. Thank you.
Okay. So as Bob mentioned, I am a fleet expert, I guess. Okay, how many are fleet in here? Anybody? Oh, fair amount of hands. Been doing fleet myself for over 40 years. I've worked in the public sector, private sector. One of the things that I'm a huge advocate in is process improvement, and process improvement has a lot to do with safety. So when I go through my presentation here today, you'll see some of the things tactically that I really recommend. And it's really hard in about 10 minutes to go through every aspect of safety, but I'm going to focus on shop improvements and things you can do right away. So some of the things, how many have heard of 5S? Good, a few hands. Toyota productivity systems, lean management, those are where those kind of invented some of the Deming principles that are out there in safety. How many have 5S your shops? Not too many hands, okay? One of the things I always encourage is, I'm a bit compulsive at nature, and I'm probably an obsessive compulsive, you know, but one of the things I like, I'm one of those guys that has a sock drawer, you know, that's all perfect, you know, but reason I bring that up is because the environment you work in has to be organized to be safe. How many have been in shops before and there's cords all over the floor, junk all over the floor, kitty litter all over the floor, you know, sopping up oil? All those things are potential hazards. So one of the things I like to draw attention to are these 5S principles in your shop. And if you look over there on the, I guess it's your right side of the slide. Those are shadow boards. They got two purposes. One is to keep your tools organized, your supplies organized, but the other reason is if something's missing, you know it's missing and didn't get back on that board. Those pictures on the bottom are actually sites from some of the 233 sites that we helped to 5S when I was at Republic Services. So you can kind of see the before and after of those sites. So that's really, you can really see the clean change from before and after. And the reason that's important is because people respond to being organized, and they are safer, right? When you have a clean, optimized shop, then that elevates morale and elevates the team spirit and everything else. So one of the things that I always like to focus on is trying to remove all that clutter. This is a slide that there's so much automation out there for 5S now that I ran across this just a few weeks ago. They now have vending machines that you can put in your shops to vend parts, to vend safety supplies, to vend PPE, all those different things. So if you don't have a dedicated parts person or a dedicated person that gives out tools, things like that, you can organize it this way. I was in one shop here, I guess it was last year, where they actually had a vending machine they could walk up to, and it had a conveyor system and would actually bring the part to the person. You're going to see things like that even become more advanced. You got Tesla now making robots. When I was at Coca-Cola, we had automated robots moving Coke around the floors of our warehouses. And that was back in 2013, so over 10 years ago. So now you're going to be having robots carrying parts out from the parts room to the mechanics to keep the mechanics turning wrenches. So there's a lot of things and a lot of innovations that are going to be coming. So keep that in mind as you're optimizing your shops. And hopefully they don't become killer robots. I always wonder about iRobot and Terminator, as we're going through this transition. But to have a really safe shop, you have to have process and workflow in your operation. And one of those main processes that you have in your operation if you're running a shop is a preventive maintenance program. And these are just some things I put together. This is a safety-focused PM program, and it talks about, documented processes to start. You have to have good intervals. Make sure you align those with the OEMs, the manufacturer's intervals. And then you have to have good optimal PM flow. Optimal flow is how you become a little bit safer when you're performing that preventive maintenance inspection. We did a preventive maintenance inspection tack time test when I was at Coca-Cola years ago up in New York. We were doing a Class 7 truck. We were doing 1 PM per day. That's an APM. If you know anything about A, B, C. So we went up there and we said, that just seems, 6.5 hours for an A inspection seems like a long time. So we brought in an outside consultant at that time to actually do a tack time test, follow that person around, look for opportunities to remove waste, non-value add activities. Bottom line on that is we were able to reduce that 6.5 hour to 2. Now we can do 3 of those inspections in one day. That's like a 400% improvement. So, if you're thinking about safety and you're thinking about process, there's also a productivity benefit that you can get out of that as well. The other thing, too, that I always encourage people is measurement. You got to have metrics and you got to measure where you're at, what you're doing for continuous improvement. And then ultimately, optimal execution. So you should have parts kitting. Make sure your filters are all pre-staged. Make sure you have a dedicated work bay if you can afford it. Some shops are too small. The other thing too you want to look at is stage all your tools and anything that has to do with it. The main thing to keep people safe is keep them from wandering around a shop, right? Keep them focused right where they're at, on turning wrenches and doing the inspection process. This is just an example of what you can do with good process flow. On that left side of that drawing, that is A front load, I can't see it exactly. It's a front load, I believe, a front load. When I was at Republic, you can see all those lines. We call that a spaghetti diagram for work process and flow. All those lines on the upper drawing there is all the steps that mechanic took to get a preventive maintenance inspection done. And so as we went through the process, the bottom one is how many steps we removed from that process. So just think about every step a person takes potentially could be a trip and fall, right? Or it could be wasted time, low productivity. So that's why it's important to do these spaghetti diagrams, these workflow processes to remove the waste in your process. On the right side of that document is just a suggestion on how you do quality control inspections. I call them QCIs. Everything you do, you should do a certain amount of quality control inspections to make sure the work the technician is doing is safe, productive, and quality, okay? And what I suggest is if you look at a preventive maintenance checklist over there on the far left, just select like 5 items off that checklist, randomly. And then as you go through and you walk behind the mechanic and you check out their work for quality control, if he gets all 5 of those at a standard that it's acceptable to you, then he's 100%, right? If he only gets 4 right, he's at 90%. And then keep that record. Those are things you can coach with, things you can use on the evaluation, and then lastly, you can use them for training. If somebody's missing the same thing all the time, then maybe you got a training issue going on, right? So those are some of the things you can do as well. Written documentation. I always talk a lot about this. Right now, as a consultant, I'm actually writing policies and procedures for a fleet for a county in Georgia from scratch, from top to bottom. One of the things that we have in our organizations now across the board is, you see me, I have this gray hair now. There's probably a few years from now, I'll be retired. And I'm going to take a lot of institutional knowledge with me. And those that retired before me took a lot of institutional knowledge with them. If you don't have things documented, you could be in trouble as the new generation comes in. So how many have policies and procedures? Work instructions. You should be thinking about working on those now so you can transition from one generation to the other. It's a good process. Then you should be looking at them every couple of years to make sure they're accurate. So it also drives accountability. You should have policies and procedures that have a little bit of teeth in them for enforcement. Some of the policies and procedures I'm working on now for this county, basically, I'll give you an example. One policy was, if you don't use your vehicle, we're going to come get it. That's it. That's all they said. So what does that mean? Does that threaten anybody that has a vehicle? There should be process involved there that says, okay, if you don't use it, and here's our threshold of utilization. If you don't use it, then we're going to come and get it, and we're going to charge you back the towing fee and, all those kind of things, so that there's actually teeth in the policies and procedures. So think about that. Make sure you document your policies, procedures, your safety practices, because documentation is key. It's especially key if you have an accident. And why is that? What if you have to go to court? What's a reasonable standard if you go to court and you have someone get hurt? You should have process in place, right? They're going to call it up in discovery and say, if you don't have any policies or procedures to prevent an accident or keep people safe, what's the judge going to do to your company? He's going to award everything to the person that got hurt, right? So that's how that works. You need to do everything reasonable. And basically, your job is establishing and upholding detailed written protocols for fleet management. It's crucial, okay? And that's how you get peak performance. The next thing I want to talk about is kind of related to the shop, because the drivers are the eyes and ears of the shop, okay? And how many have good DVIR practices? You require it, a few hands. The reason that's important, obviously, first of all, is FMCSA, Federal Motor Carrier. They require it, especially if you're driving trucks over 10,001 pounds, okay? You have to do it. There's 13 critical items that you must check according to the DOT policies. Many people have DVIRs that go beyond the 13 items. But the reason you have those is to make sure you're operating safe equipment out on the road. particularly, garbage trucks can be dangerous. Anything you're picking up garbage with can be dangerous. So you need to make sure they're safe to operate, not only for the driver, but for the public. Over on the right side of that screen, we used to have at Republic an actual template we stuck on our DVIR, and the dispatcher would go through it, and they'd actually take a DVIR from a driver, and they would see what they did fill out and what they didn't fill out, and then we would score that. And then if we had a problem, we would sit down with them one-on-one, and we'd go through that. It'd be a training, coaching exercise. So you need to be able to follow through with drivers. You need to be able to teach them how to do it correctly. And ultimately, you need to be in compliance. How many have ever been audited by the DOT? Yeah, I've been through a few of those. It'd be easier to have an enema than to be audited by the DOT, okay? Because some of the problems that they bring up. Now, the good thing is they're not there to shut you down typically, but it's a very unpleasant thing, especially if you're not conforming and doing things correctly. So you make sure you have a regular cadence as you're going through. You are training your drivers. You're following through on the repairs. Especially make sure you have the closed loop process. If a driver reports a repair, the mechanic has to fix the repair, and then the driver has to sign off that they fixed the repair. That's the process. And then lastly, I would tell you, do not keep DVIR forms, whether digitally or paper, more than 90 days. You don't have to do that according to the DOT, and if you keep them longer than 90 days, then they can always just use them for discovery. So you don't want to have them if you don't need them, okay? And this is just typically talks about DVIR practices. I'm not going to go through that whole thing, but you should have a pre-trip and a post-trip inspection process, and you should have a process where the driver signs off on the repairs. There is a good thing with DVIRs now that they went through and changed the rule a couple of years ago. If you don't have anything unsafe, you can actually get rid of the DVIR now. And that's the process involved in that. So you used to have to keep everything, whether you wrote anything up or had a defect or not. So they actually optimized that. And then the last thing I want to talk about is root cause analysis. How many do root cause analysis? I heard Megan talk about RCAs when she was doing her presentation. It's always a good thing to have some kind of root cause analysis and involve operations and fleet together. We used to have a committee that we would sit down if we had a brake canister fall off or if we had an accident due to a maintenance problem. We would sit down together and determine how that happened. What was the root cause? Was it driver error? Was it mechanical error? And then hopefully once you get to the root cause, you eliminate that problem going forward. That was the whole point of it, right? So you don't repeat that problem. So I like to do it by VRMS codes. That's a fleet thing. Does anybody ever heard of VRMS codes? Vehicle Maintenance Reporting Standards. It's basically the language of fleet in a fleet management information system. If you're not using VRMS codes or you don't know anything about it and you need more information, let me know. I'm actually a VRMS certified person in that regard. So that's kind of the way I look at it. You look at all of the problems that you're having, you try and categorize them, prioritize them. In this particular case, we had a lot of body issues. That was our number one problem that we were trying to solve. So we try and put them in an area that we can actually focus on the frequency first. In summary, essentially, 5S enhances your shop safety, efficiency, and team morale. Optimized PM sequencing reduces risk, improves quality, and cuts downtime, and also increases productivity. Efficient DVR processes ensure you're compliant and protects you against liability. Clear documentation reinforces a safety culture and makes you accountable as an organization. And root cause analysis helps you prevent future incidents by identifying the underlying causes. So that's kind of what I have. I would like to, if you want to scan that code there, you can get a free book that we wrote. If you're a fleet person, this is the book. I'll give one away today. And it basically just talks about what we call the 4 pillars of fleet success. And that's all I have.
All righty. My name's Glenn Neary. I'm from All Star Incentive Marketing. I'm the VP of something or other about safety recognition. I'm going to try to do this within 10 minutes, get you excited about it. If you pay attention, by the way, and you want to see what we do, I can give you a little voucher. If you do a demo, you get 100 points to go on our recognition site, and it's worth $100. So I'm not going to do the demo. Somebody else will be. No, I might do it, but just in case. So anyway, so recognition in this forum, we work with a lot of different companies in the waste business, Casella, Republic Services, Waste Connections, Interstate Waste, GFL, doing all kinds of different things within them. And it's all different because they have all different cultures. Tell you a little story, a quick story. So since I have 10 minutes, we have a customer called AmeriGas. Most people probably know who AmeriGas is. They came to us, and actually the COO was an ex-Republic guy. And so he kind of knew what we were up to. And they were talking to us about their engagement and specifically their OSHA incidents and their ABIs, and they were just out of control. And they had 40% turnover, and they had all kinds of problems, and they just didn't know what to do. So our company is about 50 years old, been doing it a long time, have customers all over the place, and actually Republic Services is one of our long-standing customers, 18 years. So they came to us and said, listen, this is what we're doing. We're giving our employees gift cards, we're giving them scratch tickets, we have a wheel that they can spin, we have pizza parties, we have all this kind of stuff, and it's not really helping our numbers. So we sat down with the leadership, tried to figure out what was going on. A lot of leadership actually wasn't really into the recognition part of recognizing and rewarding their drivers or whoever they were involved with. And we came up with this scenario where we actually set up a small kind of case study with 300, 400 people, trying to figure out what their culture was, because everybody's culture is different in this room, right? So there's no one silver bullet. Everybody has something different that is within your business that's unique to you. So AmeriGas said, we want to do driver recognition. We want to give people performance recognition. We want to do all this kind of stuff. Within 3 months, nothing worked because the managers were actually telling us what they wanted to do. And the reason it didn't work was because the managers didn't know how to recognize people. They needed to do what they were doing, and they weren't taking what we were saying and applying it to their people. So we turned it around. We said, listen, let us listen to you. We have the 50 years of experience. Let us figure it out for you. Within 3 months, they deployed our program to 5,500 people across the country. They've had it about 7 years now. They have a 97% basically people actually are in the platform that, they have 97% of the people are actually within it. They have things within it that people get performance points. They get recognized for having no OSHAs and ABI incidents. They have above beyond recognition where they get recognized for doing above and beyond, where they're PP, all positive things, right? But they also have quiz functions where they're training, they're doing some sort of training, and they're actually taking quizzes every month, and they can earn more points and that type of thing. To the point where now, after 7 years, they don't actually track their OSHAs and ABIs anymore because their numbers are so great. They actually track what the leading indicators are with their telematics, with their analytics platform. So they take their 3 things that people are naturally doing, take the people that are doing those things, they take them out of the field, and they retrain them, and they try to get them to do better things. And their numbers are dramatically different, and also in terms of their retention's down to almost 15%. Now, it's not magic. It's not us that's doing this magic thing. It's just them listening to people that actually know what they're talking about to help their numbers, unique to them, okay? So if you look at this slide, this essentially is from the Gallup. Gallup is a analytical, basically advocates. They do public polling to certain types of businesses. This is the state of the American workplace. And no shocker, by the way, engaged employees do better, right? Everybody that's engaged, you know it. When you're engaged at home, and you do better. When you're at work, you do better. Some of these things are ridiculous. And this talks about, The top 25% of companies, they analyze their employees and how they do, right? And the bottom 25% don't do this, and it's actually the opposite. So some of these, and I won't bore you with the stats, but some of them, absenteeism, 81% less absenteeism when the company's actually more engaged. 21% more profitability. The company's more profitable when people actually are caring. They feel valued. They feel recognized, right? And then the incidents and accident rates down 64% in their poll, which is ridiculous. And everybody should be doing something of this. And doesn't have to be with us. It could just be with what you're doing now. And a lot of the things underscored by these two professionals, where a lot of the conversation with their employees, those are the words that we use as well. So what defines a great safety culture? And this really comes down to the 50 years of experience within our business. And we've worked with hundreds and hundreds of other companies and figured out what doesn't work and what does work. And a lot of the buzzwords come from the professionals, and they're doing it right as well. Engaging your workforce. Now, what is that? What's engaging your workforce mean to you? It could be something different. You might think a pizza party is engaging. You might think giving them a gift card at Christmas or holidays is engaging. But there's a lot of psychology around those types of things. And a lot of those things, actually, people feel that it's not engaging. A pizza party is expected. Free coffee is expected. A day off is expected. They want personal engagement. They want engagement individually. They want to feel good about what they do. And because they have to get up in the morning and get the kids on the bus and have breakfast and, take the dog out and go to work. And then you want to get them motivated to do that. And how you do that is by engaging them. Now, Megan was talking about their safety champions. Awesome. If you don't have safety champions, no level of engagement will work with your people. You're engaged, your managers, your champions, they have to be into it. They have to be engaged themselves, and they have to talk the talk with their safety folks, if they're maintenance people, if they're fleet people, whatever that might be. Consistent reinforcement on that safe work behavior. So some of the things that we do, for example, is we like to recognize people on a consistent kind of a drip basis, like those nudges. Every time you do something over a period of time, you're nudging that person to do what you want them to do, right? It's kind of like when everybody's done this. You're driving home after a tiresome day. You're driving home. All of a sudden, you're in your driveway, and you're like, "How did I get here?" Right? Well, that fog is what we're trying to get rid of. We're trying to get rid of people doing that at work and having accidents and injuries. So if you actually nudge them consistently over a period of time with what you want to nudge them with, it gets them out of it, snaps them out of that, and they do their pre-drive inspection of their truck, or they wear their PPE because they're paying attention in that particular moment. So it's very important in that regard. Again, the celebrating positive results and positive behaviors. Nobody likes to actually get picked on and say, "Hey, you're not wearing your PPE. What are you doing?" Or, "Hey, pick that up. What are you doing? You're late again. What are you doing?" What we like to do is we like to show people how to recognize people for doing something right. Like, "Hey, you're wearing your PPE. That's awesome. Hey, you were on time today. Great. You did your pre-trip work, around the truck, those types of things." When you're recognizing people for positive things, it changes the psychology and the frame of their mind when they go to work. They feel like they're not getting picked on. They feel like they're actually getting something of value. Ongoing learning and training is very important. I'm going to go a little quicker because I told you 5 minutes. Commitment and continuous improvement, the training aspects of it. Within our platform, we do quizzes, we do surveys, we do, safety pledges, we do all kinds of funky stuff. And helps the engagement within your folks. Higher retention, lower turnover. When people are engaged, they're going to be that. They're going to do that. And then two-way communication. Obviously, people want to feel safe. They want to be able to communicate without getting in trouble. Hey, I'd like to figure out. And people, when more engaged, you're going to have people actually doing above and beyond things and talking about what they think that you should be doing to help the situation. And they become champions themselves. And then lastly, safety above, beyond the workplace. When people are safe at work, it transcends to home. And that's the most important thing because you want them to come back to work. So one of the things that we've also learned over the last 50 plus years of our company is, and we do sell millions and millions of dollars of gift cards and all kinds of stuff like that. And by the way, OSHA hates gift cards and OSHA hates cash and that kind of thing. So how we get around that is the psychology of tangible awards. When you actually allow someone to earn points for being safe that month or having no OSHA incidents or maybe filling out a near miss report or whatever it might be, again, within your culture. If they have something in mind like that Weber grill or that power washer or that Louis Vuitton bag or whatever that might be, that is in the back of their minds at all times. And once they get that, every time they fire up that Weber grill, they remember, hey, I was safe that year, and look at this, look what I did, look what I got for my family, right? And that's why we like to use tangible awards, especially for safety and driver safety and maintenance, that type of thing, because it gets them excited about it. It gets them the juices flowing about what they could actually get. And then we also actually give them the ability to pick whatever they want. So we have 20,000 products within our platform. You want to go to a Buffalo Bills football game, you want to go to a Michigan hockey game, you want to go, you want to go to a Vegas Golden Knights game, you can buy tickets, you can go, want to go take your family to, to Disney, great, get tickets with your points, whatever it is. So our platform is that point-based platform, as you can tell. And this is what you get, by the way. When people get excited, and people actually, it is a little silly, but when people get excited, go ahead. They really get excited, and then the competition flows keep going. What this is actually a Caterpillar dealer in the Northeast that was having massive problems with their RIF rates, to the point where every time they did a job, they had to sign off because their RIF rates were so bad, where that they were actually not gonna, they weren't liable for the accidents and injuries. So they came to us and said, listen, we don't know what we're doing. They said, we think this is going to work, but we don't know. So we said, that's not going to work. Just let us help you. And we did the same thing. The performance-based situation, we gave, with their telematics, we linked with their telematics so they can actually give their drivers, you fleet people, their fleet, they get a positive drive score that month, they give them points, awesome. But they really got it and they really embraced it. And over about an 8-month period, their RIF rate went down 40%. And they were like, holy shit, we can't believe that happened. And we were like, it's not us, we're not a miracle. You guys did the work. You learned, figured out what your employees wanted and what they really enjoyed. And this is one of the things they really enjoyed, keep going, is they actually, they said, hey, if I get an award, can I take a picture and can you put it on the website? And we said, sure. And so the company said, hey, we're going to give them another 100 points if they do that, because that's so cool that they did that. Now they do it every single month, and they have hundreds of people. They have 1,500 people. They get hundreds of people sending pictures to us to put them on the website because people get all pumped up. Keep going. One more. All right. So this is the communication part that I was talking about. So there's a lot of different things, a lot of moving parts within these platforms, but communication is really the key. Right. Your management has to be really into what's going on. They have to be engaged. They have to be talking the talk. But you also want to be able to give people the ability to understand what you're doing in terms of, you want to have posters out there explaining the process of your safety programs. You want to, if you're launching a new program, maybe you want to have a multilingual letter to the actual employee written to their name with their username and passcode, so they think it's personal, right? We're trying to make it personal for them. They get all excited about it. If you do above and beyond recognition, within the platform, it's electronic, so a manager can actually give points to that person, and they click a button, and a certificate goes to the person, email or SMS, and they go, hey, look at that. My manager just gave me this certificate. They can print it out, put it in their cubby if they want to. They get all excited about that too. The two-way communication is very key, right? Because they want to talk to you and you want to talk to them. And if they feel like this, for example, this is the AmeriGas one, we like to actually not say that it's a safety program, a Airgas safety program like everybody else does, but we actually branded it. We branded it committed to safety. And now this is a fabric of their safety culture. They really embrace this. And, every single person in the company is in this program. And they really, they just love it because it makes everybody feel good and feel empowered and feel valued. This is actually a slide. I actually, a couple weeks ago, I went to a Lytx event out in San Diego where they brought 100 of their top companies, customers, and they had a big forum about telematics. And one of the things that really stood out to me was the maintenance folks and the drivers, they're all the same folks, right? But you see different details in the drivers, which is interesting. They are a little different sometimes. And one of the things that stood out to me here was that drivers that feel recognized and feel that their company is behind them will stay at the company, right? This 70% of drivers say they'll stay longer if they feel more engaged in the company, right? And what does that also do? That reduces their accidents and injuries because now they're more engaged, right? But on the flip side, with the maintenance workers and all the costs associated to it, is that if they're caring about their truck, then taking care of the truck is what they're going to do. They're going to try to save money on gas, and they're not going to do idling like this. Is how it talks about 25% reduction in the costs. They're going to absenteeism and leaving the company is going to go down, and then they're going to increase their employee retention. They're going to stay at the company longer. Right? So it's all about engagement in whatever you do and however you do it. And what I would recommend is you talk to people that actually do it on a daily basis to give you pointers. And don't be afraid to ask. Say, hey, we kind of know what we're doing, but we'd like to be better. Maybe we have telematics and we had a couple of years that went awesome, 50% reduction in injuries and accidents, but now we're kind of flat. We need a little help there, right? It's kind of like me going to one of your safety meetings and talking about what you do. I have no idea what you're talking about. But you want to ask somebody that's in that business instead of you trying to make it up. Because if you do that, you'll see the numbers drop, and it's significant. Go ahead. And so what this is all the things that everybody does, right? They do the well-being, and they do the years of service, and they do the telematics stuff and the above and beyond and things like this. And really what you want to do here is this is just the total engagement. This is what people expect. They expect you to do a lot of this stuff. So if you can pinpoint in your business what you're really having a hard time with, maybe it's the telematics aspect and people, kind of adhering to the technology of it, and you want to engage them to be more positive. Hey, instead of looking at a negative, let's engage you and let's do the training, and we'll reward you to do the training. Turn your camera on, and we'll reward you for doing that, because the bottom line is those numbers are going to go down if you get that person engaged. The same thing with above and beyond. Hey, you're wearing a PPE, awesome. You're cleaning the shop, great, thanks a lot. Positive recognition, and the recognition that Meg was talking about, where the managers are in the building and listening and looking at the people, right? That's very, very important, because we see the numbers, dramatically increasing when that happens. So lastly, I know I went over 5 minutes, and I'm so sorry. But remember, if you do look at our platform, we'll give you $100. So the keys to safety program success that we see, like I said before, the visible senior management buy-in, super important. Clear, simple, scalable program structure. It doesn't have to be complicated. We like the easy button from Staples. You're very basic to begin with, and then you kind of work from there, where you might do something with telematics, or maybe you do something with just performance-based, or maybe you just want a quiz to get people more engaged with your training, right? You can always build on it. Positive recognition drives positive results. You're not doing anybody any favors by doing negative recognition, right? Scolding people in front of other people. You're better off going to the person that's doing it properly, and the person that's not doing it properly will pay attention. That's the key. Make recognition personal, again, face-to-face. When you're doing it face-to-face, people like, this is face-to-face. I love this kind of stuff. We could have a Zoom call, and half of us would be on our phones. But now we're actually paying attention. We might learn something, which is awesome. Benchmark and measure, like we were talking about before. When you do this type of thing, you really want to see where you are now and then where you're going to be in 18 months. And if you do it properly, you'll see the result you want to see, right? But you want to actually, every 3 months, you want to make sure you want to know where you are, where you were, where you are, where you were. And you'll see those numbers go down, right? And if you're with the right company, the right business helping you with this, they'll do that for you, because they'll want to make sure that they're doing things properly, because they want you to stay with them. Tangible, meaningful, all kinds of good stuff. Remember, everybody's gotten a gift card before. I've got a Lowe's gift card. I go to Lowe's every weekend. They know who I am by name. I have a Lowe's gift card in my wallet still. I have to use it. I can't figure out how to use it. All right. Gift cards are awesome, but not in safety. Cash is great. We love cash. Everybody spends it. If you give them a carrot, they enjoy that more. I know there's psychology around it, where people actually love working towards something. Like, you've gone to the grocery store and someone says, hey, you got $5 in Stop and Shop cash. You want to use it? And you're like, yeah, $5? You kidding me? That's awesome, right? It's the same type of thing. It's just psychology around it. So I think I'm done. But thank you.
Thanks, Glenn. Thank you, Megan and Steve. You guys are certainly rock stars in the safety world and safety professionals. It was very engaging and informative here. So we consumed the session, but I'm going to keep it going until they throw me out of here. So anybody who's come, clearly you had a passion for this topic. Megan, Steve, and Glenn are going to be around to engage with you, find them through the conference. Please scan this QR code. It was clearly a very popular topic, but I am going to open it up for Q&A, and we'll keep going. I understand some of you have to leave. We're at the top of the hour, so we won't be offended. But does anybody have a question for Megan, Steve, or Glenn? Certainly there's a lot of safety, fleet, and shop professionals in here. We'd like to hear from you. Yeah, I'm going to come and bring you the mic so you don't have to get out of your seat. This is like the Jerry Springer show.
You mentioned after 90 days to get rid of it. That's pretty much hided from DOT, because if you have an insurance and accident, I mean, the longer you show, the better you're going to look against the third party coming at you. So
You'll have to use the mic. Thanks.
DOT regulation. Yeah. I mean, if you want to keep them longer, the only reason I said 90 days is if you had some really bad performance, then you can actually, that can be discovery, right? And so it can put you on there. And since you asked the first question, I'm going to give you this shirt. If somebody else wants a shirt like this, come to our booth.
Thanks. I have two really quick questions. One is a clarifying question. So when it came to the safety committees, I was curious about what your decision-making model was. Was the committee advising, or were they co-creating policy with managers? So that's my first question, if that's okay.
Absolutely. No, I love the question. And I would say it's been a little bit of both, actually. A lot of it has been an advising role, but at the local level, we really encourage them to get involved in the local processes. We have local, all sorts of local procedures and everything that they should be helping to develop and get involved with. And when we have management of change, for example, they should be integrally involved in all of that. So I would say it's been a bit of both to be fully empowering them.
Okay, I will definitely take that back with me. And my second question was about psychological safety. So this is a question for all three of you. I work with a really diverse workforce, and so I've been thinking a lot about protections, or for veterans who have PTSD on the floor, women who are coming into the workforce, BIPOC, so Black, Indigenous, people of color, who may experience microaggressions. So what sorts of policies or infrastructure have you built into your systems to also address this in your safety protocols? Thank you.
Great question. My mic's on, so I guess I'll start and then turn it over to them as well. But In Reworld, inclusion is one of our company values, along with safety, actually. We hire a lot of veterans and a lot of diverse workforce across our organization. We have, for example, employee resource groups, a number of them for various groups, and we encourage people to get involved and really support our diverse employees. And even in our safety committees, we look at psychological safety as well and try to encourage everybody to feel free to speak up and be themselves at work. Ultimately, that's what we want across our entire workforce, and it's something that is extremely important to us as an organization. So I love the question. Steve, Glenn, anything to add?
Actually, I think Glenn kind of covered it. Engagement. The more engagement, the more feedback you get, the more people feel safe to be able to give their feedback, the more successful safety program you're going to have.
Good morning. Great panel. Quick question in terms of this safety committee, because you spoke about staff engagement at all levels. And in cases where we have multi-tiered management, in some cases we don't call it that, do you stop at the supervisor level, or would you also include staff below that front line? And then how would that be managed in terms of conflict? Because remember, the frontline staff then has to inform the supervisor.
Great question. Yeah, so for our safety committees, as I mentioned, they're led by an hourly representative, but the committee consists of some hourly and some salary folks. So we expect, it's part of our minimum expectation, that our facility managers and their leadership team are part of the safety committee, along with our safety managers. And typically we get supervision, to your point, frontline supervision as part of the committees as well. There's a requirement that we have every department represented in the safety committee. So sometimes that might be a safety supervisor or a supervisor of that department. But then, as I said, we have engagement all the way up to the executive leadership level as well. But in terms of our actual committees themselves, we absolutely do have frontline supervisors as well as local leadership that's part of the committees.
Okay. And for the, oh, sorry.
I was just going to say that importantly, you have to have executive management support to make sure that they're involved in it.
So that would have been my second question. How important is a functioning HR department? Because one of the things that tend to exist is a disconnect between the office and the front line. So even with the incentives program, you have to bring both together to have an appreciation of what's happening at all levels.
Absolutely. With us, we are very closely tied out with HR department. I mean, they have to be there to support, and really it takes all functions to be supporting safety and be engaged with the safety process in order to be fully successful.
Yeah, I would agree with that, actually. I was actually going to go back to your previous question about the levels. We've seen it both ways. I mean, it really depends on your culture. Like when you're talking about fleets, for example, you might have a dispatcher that's a coach for their telematics, right? They're not a manager; they're just a coach for their telematics system, right? So you really want to get those people engaged, even though it's not a part of their business or not part of their role. You engage them. It's possible you can make them a champion, right, for their safety, and then bring that person up to become a manager, right? But you get them excited about it, you get them engaged, and you even incentivize them to do those things that they're not tasked to do on a daily basis. So.
Anybody else have a question? All right. Well, on behalf of Megan Rains of Reworld, Steve Saltzgiver from RTA, and Glenn Neary from All-Star Incentive Marketing, I'm Bob Dick, closing down the show. Thank you all for hanging out with us. And yeah, we broke the rules a little bit, but you can write me up later. See you guys. Have a great Waste Expo.
Okay, that wraps up the Waste Expo 2025 session on safety within your walls and beyond, from shop risks assessments and fleet maintenance to driver management and frontline accountability. It's known, the conversation reinforced an important message. Safety isn't a single person. It's a system that requires constant attention. And I think that is a huge theme, a huge revelation in safety. Don't be out there doing it alone. Put the system together to make sure we have all across the board safety. We want accountability all the way around. If you found this session valuable, be sure to subscribe to the podcast. Like I said at the top of the show, we're available on all podcasting services. Apple iTunes, Apple Podcasts, whatever it is, Spotify, YouTube, other podcasting services. We're available. We're so findable. Make sure you're looking for the Waste World podcast for more insights on the waste and recycling industry. Like I said, also, I mentioned earlier that the podcast is probably going to be a Tuesday thing now, where you're probably going to hear this on Tuesdays going forward for more time for me to edit these, because it's just me doing the editing here, and I need the extra time. The extra time to do it, because it can be a lot sometimes. Things can come in late. Things can happen over the weekend. Sometimes you just need a little extra buffer. The Tuesday release schedule will help me greatly. Okay, that's it for the episode. Like I said, subscribe, rate, review, do your thing out there. Share the episode with a friend. Thanks for listening. We'll see you in the next episode. And remember, it's our world. Let's not waste it.